Hey there, and welcome to Cold Chats. I'm super excited for our conversation today as we're going to be talking about a topic that everyone deals with at some point in their life: doubt, disappointment, missed expectations, someone letting you down. But today I want to talk about about God. How God can sometimes not meet our expectations. About sometimes we're disappointed with God and what He's doing, or maybe even what He's not doing. But I don't think there's anything wrong with those feelings, because when we look at the Bible in Psalms, we see David dealing with disappointment. We see Jacob wrestling with God literally. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with having those feelings or those disappointments or those missed expectations, but how do we deal with disappointment? How do we deal with when our expectations aren't met? So let's have that conversation today. I want to invite our special guest, Jordan Gonzalez, into the cold tub today. Jordan Gonzalez, welcome to the cold tub. What's up, man?
What's up?
How are you doing?
Good. How
You ready to do this?
I think so.
Yeah? All right. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself. Give yourself a little 30-second bio, whatever you think is good.
All right. Well, my name is Jordan Gonzalez. I'm 30 years old, and I work here at New Life on the creative media team.
That's all you're going to give us? Yeah, you're going to have us wanting more.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, let's get into this. Let's just jump into our conversation about disappointment, about doubt. Jordan, do you ever get into cold tubs often? Is that like a weird question to ask?
That's a little weird, but no, never.
No history.
No history. I don't like cold water, so
Sorry.
we'll see how this goes.
All right.
Oh, help me, Lord.
Ooh, that's pleasant.
Yep.
That's really pleasant.
That is cold. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we're standing.
We stand and we sit. What do you want to do here?
I don't know.
I feel like we get the same amount of leg in there if we just sit on here.
Oh, yeah, that's cold.
Yeah. My leg's pretty cold already. Jordan, let's jump into this conversation before we really kind of lose feeling in our legs with step one. But what does doubt and disappointment with God really look like in a Christian's life?
I think it looks different for everyone. I think each individual has their own individual walk with God, and so it looks different. But for me, I had different moments of disappointment and doubt, and this is really cold, guys. Oh my goodness. And, in that disappointment, it can be an opportunity to grow closer to God, or it can lead you into a place of hurt where you actually begin to question who God is.
Yeah, totally. And I think that a lot of times people get it twisted. That as Christians, we're not allowed to be disappointed with God. God has to do everything perfect, or else we're doing something wrong as a Christian. I don't really think that's the case. I think that there's more to being a Christian than just having this perfect walk with God, that you never have difficulty, you never have doubt or disappointment. But it really truly is how do we deal with those feelings when we have those feelings?
Yeah, I think, Luke 7, there's a story about John the Baptist, and he's sitting in a prison cell, and a few chapters earlier, he's proclaiming that Jesus is the Son of God, he's the Messiah, he's the chosen one. Now fast forward to Luke 7, he's sitting in a prison cell, and he asks the question, is God the Messiah? Is Jesus the Messiah? And the way he goes about it, I think, is a picture in how we're to go about our doubt. He physically couldn't go to Jesus because he's sitting in a jail cell. So he sent his disciples to Jesus to ask him, are you the Messiah? Are you the coming one? And so I think with our doubts, we have to take them directly to Jesus.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, tell me a little bit about your own story with disappointment or doubt as we creep just a little bit further into this cold tub.
Oh, yeah.
How are we doing this? We just going
I don't know. I can't feel my legs.
Yeah, my legs are pretty cold.
Yeah.
I guess we're just going until our butts are in it. Is that what we're gonna hold ourselves up?
I'm gonna follow your lead. Oh.
Girl, get in! Get in! Oh, bro,
That is cold.
You just lean back a little bit and you got a little support.
I can't breathe.
Yeah, so tell me that story in your life.
Yep. That's a good story.
About how you deal with doubt and disappointment.
Let me catch my breath. Disappointment. Yeah, my story. So, I was actually in 2015 engaged to be married. And, I feel like I had heard from God that this was supposed to be my wife. There was different men and women of God who spoke into us, said, hey, you're to get married, these different things. So we were set to get married. And 3 months before the wedding, everything fell apart. And, I'm in a place where now I feel like I'm picking up the pieces of my life. And I'm wondering, what about those promises that I felt like God spoke to me? What about those promises that I felt like God spoke to me through other people that I looked up to, different ministers of God? Did they miss it? Did I miss it? Is God real? Where do I go from here? And so for me, it was a really unique season of my life. But one thing that really helped me is I got around some people that I allowed to speak into my life, that would call me higher, that would keep me accountable, that would not necessarily have the answers to my questions, but walk with me in figuring out those answers. Mm-hmm. And so what I tell people is if you're dealing with doubt, you need to have some people in your corner. Like just as a boxer has a corner man, someone that say, hey, stay in it, jab right, jab left. I think we need people in our life that are like corner men that mm-hmm. could help guide us and see the punches before they even come to us.
Yeah, that's so good having those people in your corner, because a lot of times we get people in our corner who will, I don't want to say validate what they're feeling, because I think there's like the validation, the feelings you were feeling were real. Absolutely. But to like kindle those feelings and allow you to just stew in those feelings, whether that's like disappointment from a student's perspective, like, hey, my parents are not allowing me to have the same freedom as my friends, or yeah. I'm not getting that grade, or that my coach isn't giving me enough playing time because he just doesn't like me. Mm-hmm. I think that having those people who are able to like give weight to your feelings, but then call you to getting out of those feelings at some point. Because if you were still in those feelings, like where would you be? You probably wouldn't be married today, and like Absolutely. Where you are in your life today.
Yeah, it was unique because right after that fell apart, I'm living in Stockton at the time, kind of unsure what I'm gonna do, and one of my mentors, Sean Smith, actually calls me and he's like, "Hey, I have a job for you." And it was a God-ordained thing because I needed Sean and Krista in my life, in my corner in that season to keep me accountable. And one thing I find to be true is that when you're walking through that, if you're honest with God about your feelings, He'll bring people around you, He'll encourage you. He may not give you the answers, but He will do everything to back you, to help you walk through it, and bring the people around you to help you walk through it.
Yeah, you said honest to God with how you're feeling. Like, how often are people like, no, I'm fine, and like really they're like broken inside?
Absolutely. I think it's funny how we think God doesn't know what we're already thinking and feeling. Mm-hmm. It's like we think we can hide things from God, and He's like, no, I know exactly how you're feeling. I wish you would tell me exactly how you're feeling.
So do you think that part of your story was instrumental in where you are in your life today?
Absolutely. I think for me, I had to get honest with myself, and I had to get honest with God. I had to say, God, this is how I feel about this situation. This is how I feel about broken promises. I'm now questioning other things in my life that I knew to be true. And one thing He would do, He would constantly bring me back to, what about the encounters I had with you? What about this time? What about that time? Every time I showed up for you, what about those times? And then people I had in my corner would remind me of those things too. That just because I felt like God wasn't faithful in that moment didn't discredit all the other times He had been faithful in my life.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but like I can't feel my legs.
Yeah.
It's kind of like past the cold point. Is like if I don't move, it's okay.
Yeah.
But as soon as I like have any kind of
really
movement, it like brings it all back.
Yeah.
But since we're like feeling pretty good, or at least I'm feeling good, let's go all the way in. You ready?
I'm pretty much there. I'm not that tall, so.
Oh, I have a little drop to do then. Woo-hoo. Bro, drop all the way down.
Dude, that's as far as I could go.
Okay, well then let me ask another question. What do our doubts and our disappointment with God actually reveal to us about ourselves?
I think it depends on the person, but for me, what it revealed to me is I didn't trust God as much as I thought I trusted Him. I think for me, it was like I trusted God in the areas when He always came through, when He was faithful, but it was hard to trust Him in the midst of questions. It was hard to trust Him in the midst of something not going my way. And I think that's true for a lot of people. It's easy to trust God when things are going great and everything's great, but then what happens when there's a hard time in your life or a rough moment? Like, can you still trust that God's going to be faithful even in the midst of not understanding? And later on, like in my story, He brought understanding. He just didn't bring it in the time that I wanted it. Like I wanted understanding right in that moment. And He said, no, let's go on a journey together to figure this out. So I think God cares more about the journey of walking with Him than the destination of arriving at an answer.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that just like in preparation of our conversation, I was sitting in my bed last night thinking like, I think a lot of times where our like expectations of God aren't met, or maybe God's way of breaking down our wrong expectations of God. Absolutely. It's like, no, you expect God to operate on your schedule. No, God's not your person to facilitate your life. You're actually here on earth more than just to facilitate what you want. Like, you have a purpose, and the purpose that God has for you isn't for you to just achieve everything you want. Like, and that sounds kind of like, oh man, that sucks. Like, I want my dreams and goals to be like satisfied. But I think that if we're honest with ourselves, those goals and dreams will lead us to a place that is not as significant and not as satisfactory as the things that God would have for us.
Absolutely. I mean, Scripture tells us His ways are higher than our ways, His thoughts higher than our thoughts. And I think, I once heard it said, we should live in anticipation, not expectation. And the guy went to break it down that expectation means we are putting an expectation on God on how we expect things to happen. But when we live in anticipation, we anticipate what it is that He wants to do in our lives.
That's good. And so what do you think our disappointment in God reveals to us about ourselves?
Yeah, I think it reveals lack of trust. I think it can reveal to us new natures of God as well. Because when I think back about my story, is like, as I went on this journey of figuring out, like, hey, God, I'm really disappointed. I'm a little questioning, like, are you as good as I thought you were? Are you this? Are you that? So one thing it did is it uncovered misunderstandings of God. That I didn't understand Him in the way that He's actually, like, I don't know if we could ever fully comprehend God or understand Him.
Right.
And when we think we have, I think that's when we miss it.
Yeah. So are we putting our arms in this thing?
Nope.
All right. So then I actually prepared something. Let me ask this next question. Why do you think God just like doesn't give us what we want? Like, I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I feel like that's a valid question. Like, God, why don't you just give me? I'm asking for good things. Why don't you give me the good things that I'm asking for?
I think I don't know the correct answer to this. I don't know if there is one, but for me, things I've learned in my life is sometimes I see things so closely when God sees the big picture. And so I think if He was to answer the things that I want in that moment, it may bring gratification in that moment, but in the long run, it may not benefit me. And so I think God sees end to end. And so He's like, hey, I know you want this right now, but if I give this to you in a year, it's actually going to benefit you in the long run versus now.
That's good. Yeah. And just to prove to everyone that we're actually sitting in ice.
I can't move because it hurts.
It's so cold. Look at this massive, oh no, it broke apart. But yeah, straight ice. One more question, Jordan, as we're concluding our time. How should Christians react when we experience disappointment with God? We see in the Bible that John, like you said, that was a perfect verse, that John had his disappointment, and it could have led to two different paths, I think. And I think that everyone, when we're faced with disappointment, doubt with God, we can either believe that God is who He says He is, or then begin to question and even doubt if God actually loves us or has plans for us.
Dude, this got like so much colder, I'm shivering. What was the question?
Yeah, like, how do Christians, like, how are we supposed to deal with disappointment? Or is there a way that, man, this will help you if you're feeling depressed, or not depressed, but even like disappointed, or if you're feeling like God should be doing something that you don't think He's doing, how should we respond?
I think we have to take it directly to Him, kind of like I said with the verse, Luke 7. I think we have to get people that have walked with God longer than us. We have to get some seasoned people in our life, whether that's a youth leader, whether that's you or a family member, someone who's walked with God longer, because I think they pour wisdom into us.
Your voice is quivering.
Bro, this hurts so bad.
Yeah.
I think get people in your corner, take it to God, and take the journey with God. Be able to walk it out with Him, and not be afraid of what's to come out.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the way misconceptions come out. And that's the way we get better theology of who God is.
Yeah. And so to close our time, I actually got something that hopefully will help you feel just a little better. If we could get our gifts that we have for me. And Jordan.
I'm shivering.
So I'm trying to think of like, hey, we're in ice cold water. What could really help us feel better in this moment? I was like, hey,
I don't
hot
know if I can
chocolate.
drink. I'm gonna spill it on
Hot
myself.
chocolate sounds so good. So thanks for going on this journey with me, Jordan.
I'm gonna spill it.
Ah,
Mm,
doesn't help at all, but it tastes good.
that helped me.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Maybe it did.
Maybe it's a mental thing.
I'm not gonna lie, it kind of feels good at this point. Like everything just doesn't feel.
As long as I don't shake.
But my toes feel like they're like swollen. I will say that. But
Yeah.
hey guys, it's been great having this conversation with you, Jordan. But then hopefully you guys have benefited from this. Like we all have doubts, we all have disappointment and unmet expectations about who God is and what He's doing in our lives. But like Jordan was saying, I think there's a couple of big things that we can take away from this. One, get people in your corner who have probably already been through something similar in your story. If they've dealt with doubts, if they've already dealt with disappointments, and they've actually made it through, and it's actually helped become the person that they are. But then also take your doubt to Jesus. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with God. And go to Him and let Him bring healing, bring restoration, bring clarity to whatever your next move is. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time here in the cold tub.
Do we have towels?
Somewhere. I got ice. She got a blanket over there.
Oh my God, can we get out? Oh, bro, I don't know. You were so calm.
It actually feels
Oh
good.
my gosh. Oh my gosh, dude. How are you chilling? Oh, Jesus.
Do we have towels?
Oh my gosh.
Jordan's just walking around getting everything wet.
Just wait till it's your turn, bro. Just wait.